All right, we'll get back to our guest, Mr. Peter Esele, who's a former president of the Trade Union Congress and former president of Pengason. Mr. Esele, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with that. I'm sure you heard our correspondent who is in Abu Dhabi for the Abu Dhabi Petroleum Conference, ADIPEC, talking about the need to bridge the gap, transiting from carbon products, carbon fuels to non-carbon fuels. What's your take on Nigeria's transition process so far?
I think Nigeria's transition so far is still at an infancy stage, because before you want to transit, you must have a program, you must have a plan, and the whole plan must be holistic in nature. It's not for you to say, oh, we are doing CNG, or we're going to do an electric vehicle, or whatever we want to do. The fact is that we must take it from a point of what is our interest, what is our goal. What we are doing at the moment is that we are being driven by external factors. No, you had a rainfall in Spain that was supposed to be for 8 years, having an 8 hours. In 8 hours, over 217 people dead in Spain. So you have Europeans who are very serious about climate change, but they are taking it from their own interest. So what is Nigeria's interest? So any other country in the world, whatever they are doing is vis-a-vis taking from their core interest. What is our core interest in all of this? Is it that we want CNG, or is it that we want to transit from fossil fuel because it is in our own interest? So until we are able to identify that, that is when we are able to build a program around it. Or else we will just continue as usual, be speaking the English that is being spoken in the West, and we start repeating it here without fully understanding the implication for our survival.
I want to be able to get your thoughts. What are those implications on our survival that you think are being ignored in the conversation of our conversion from PMS to other sources of energy? What are we missing out in the conversations?
Okay, now the first thing we need to identify is that fossil fuel will still be around. Your correspondent just talked about what is going on, has been on for the past 40 years. So let's ask ourselves, for the past 40 years, what have we been planning? We know this is coming up, but we've not had any plan. So what we have at the moment is that fossil fuel is still going to be around in 2050. The goal is that zero carbon emission by 2050. That's the goal. So now we're in 2024, 26 years more. What is our plan to move from point A to point B? We're actually a gas country. We have more gas reserve than crude oil that we talk so much about. So our plan should have been, first, we are talking about CNG. If we know that we're going to take away subsidy, from 1999, there's been battle for subsidy removal by successive government. Now, the subsidy has been taken off. What you would have imagined is, first of all, is that, are we going to do CNG? Is it going to be, we're going to move people, goods and services from point A to point B using CNG? Your correspondent made references to hydrogen. If you go outside, you're going to see a whole plateau of different methods or different ways that they think they can move people from point A to point B. So it's for us to identify, is it CNG? Are we going to use gas? Ordinarily, people are even talking about kerosene. We don't even need all of that. All we need to do is that as a gas country, we have to ensure that everybody have access to gas, cheaper, and it's cleaner energy. So we must, first of all, have a government policy that will drive it. What you have in Abu Dhabi, you have in UAE, is there's a government policy that has taken from 10, 20, 15, 10, 15, 20, and 30 years upward. So to plan, this is how you want your country to look like in 30 years, you must be able to envision what you want to see. And what we have right now, we don't have any plan. We just still, that's why I use the word, we are still at the infancy stage.
All right, let's move on now to the story, really, of the day. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, I think they're called PETROAN. They had a press release yesterday that's caused a lot of ripples. In fact, we've seen a response from Aliko Dangote following the release of this one. PETROAN will sell far less than the current selling rate of PMS in Nigeria when granted import license by NMDPRA. And we did hear the response from Dangote saying anything that's cheaper than what I'm selling is substandard to what I'm selling. Let's talk a little bit about this impasse and what you think about PETROAN wanting the license to import, and they're promising that it's going to be cheaper. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's a normal way that any business will want to talk, because if you want to get import license and you say that, then that is very catchy and that is attractive to any government, to anyone. If PETROAN is saying they will sell cheaper, let them tell us how they intend to do it. Between the Aliko Dangote Refinery and Petra, first thing we must identify is that they are both businessmen. The Dangote group wants to make profit. They've taken a lot of loans and there's debt that they have to pay. And PETROAN, they are also there to make money. They want to make business. In business, they also want to make profit. So now that's where government comes in. That's the reason why we have government. And that's where the regulators also come in. If PETROAN says they will sell less, let PETROAN tell us how are they going to do it. Because I saw their press statement, it was vague. They didn't tell us how they are going to do it. Dangote gets his refinery, is being sold to him in Naira, but again, the actual price is in dollars. So they convert to Naira. So if Dangote says this is how much they are going to sell, and PETROAN says they are going to sell lower than that, PETROAN need to tell us how they are going to get to that.
I mean, sorry about that. I want you to be able to get what, because they also responded to Dangote, and I want to read that there's a publication by Dangote Refinery that PETROAN will import substandard petroleum products is not coming as a surprise to stakeholders, because such is his usual gimmick to maintaining a monopoly. This talk about monopoly from the Dangote Refinery has been going on for quite a bit. Is this just normal, josting to be able to get, what they want, or is there some kind of truth to these accusations? Is there fear of a monopoly by the Dangote Refinery, and are we in danger of getting substandard products from PETROAN if they get it from other sources, as Dangote has said?
Oh, first thing, I'll take you back to what you just said. They're actually jostling for position. Dangote, just like I said earlier, Dangote is a businessman. He wants to make as much profit that he can make. And same goes for PETROAN. So this is where government comes in. And the government I'm talking about here are the regulators. Because I also read Dangote's statement, even accusing NMDRO that they don't even have the laboratory to know what is standard or what is substandard. So that's a very huge allegation against NMDRO, which of course they had to now come out to let us know whether they actually have the laboratory to do that or not. And then the other aspect we also need to look at, yes, there is fear of monopoly. Yes. If it's possible for Dangote to have monopoly, Dangote will want to take it with his both hands, with both of his hands. But we need to ask ourselves some basic here. Dangote was already far ahead. He had planned for situations like this while everybody was sleeping. Now, I'll take you back to PIG bill. That's the act. The act states, is very clear, you cannot import petroleum products except the local refiner now inform the government that they cannot meet the local demand. It's a law. So Dangote can also use that to go to court to challenge and to stop whoever is going to import product. And that's where government needs to come in. Government needs to come in to look at what is in our national interest, what is in our national security interest, what is also in our energy security. So government must find that balance between profit and service to the people. That is the only way, whatever is going on between PETROAN and Dangote Refinery. But to all fellow Nigerians, it's very clear what is at play here is capitalist jostling for position.
Mm. But you mentioned the petroleum industry law and what it's supposed to do as regards the industry. Are there portions of that law that are not being followed through? Because there are many who are concerned about the state of Nigeria's petroleum sector, even with the laws. There was a time then the argument was that the laws are not modern and strong enough to guide what's going on in that space. But now that there's a new law, we have the PIA, there are others who are concerned that it is not being effectively implemented. The unbundling, for instance, of the NNPC has been unbundled, but the different parts of that unbundling are not taking their stand. So at the end of the day, we're almost back to that one institution space where we were before the PIA.
Now, no law is perfect. The first thing was we needed to look at the industry. It started from Petroleum Industry Bill, before it now became PIGB, then PIA. No law is perfect, but it's in the process of enforcing and managing those laws that we now look at. There are areas whereby there are inadequacies, and then we gradually go ahead to correct it. So it is in the practice that we notice that there are changes that needed to be made. Now, the NNPC unbundling, the NNPC has, it's more like six and a half a dozen. There's really no change. I don't really see as much difference how NNPC operate now and how it was operating in the past. It's still the one importing product. The difference here now is that NNPC is now not giving us prices, and the petroleum subsidy is gone. That is the only difference that I can point at what NNPC is doing. So what we now need to ask ourselves is, how do we strengthen it? How do we make sure that this act is further strengthened? And then we can make a series of amendments based on the way we are seeing those who are practicing these laws or who are carrying out certain parts of the law. And if we feel that it's not being done properly, I think the executive arm of the government can still go to the National Assembly and seek further amendment.
But should we be at that space at this point in time?
Yes, laws are dynamic. So whatever you think is workable for you, whatever you think adjustment that you think you have to make, you just have to go ahead.
I asked that question because when one looks at the state of our industry as we speak, with players like you who've been there, well, there are those who will say that, okay, you, for instance, now you stepped aside, you've gone into politics. But there are others who have been there, and they are still there, playing seriously in that field. It's not just about the laws. It's also about the benefits to the nation and to her people that's supposed to come from these resources, natural resources. And as you said, Nigeria is a gas country. Nobody's even looking in that direction. We're all focused on the crude oil, but there is a gas. The Dangote refinery is not the only refinery that is at play here. They are government-owned, state-owned refineries, and then there are private refineries. But nobody's even talking about all of that. We're all focused on this private refinery, the Dangote refinery. Is that where we should be?
That should be the way it should be. You see, the fact here is that we need to ask ourselves, if you say Dangote is being monopolistic, then you should ask yourself, what happens to the government state-owned refineries? Because if the state-owned refineries are functional, all this jigsaw, all this game that is being played will not be necessary. And that's why you see I'm advising Nigerians, in the last couple of months, Dangote suddenly became an activist, moving from one media house to another. And I was very clear with certain individuals, we had conversation. I said, yes, now, the guy, he sees certain things that he needed to address because he's feeling the pinch because he had debt to pay. And then that's also why at a particular time, Dangote also went to court suing the NNPC because NNPC wanted to start importing petroleum products. So what we must ask ourselves is why are the local refineries or the state-owned refineries not working? Because if that was working, we would not be where we are now. And then we also need to give kudos to Dangote because he has proven that, yes, refineries can be built, refineries can be made to work. But what we also need to check is that he will not, because he wants to pay his debt, and at the end of the day, makes life very difficult for Nigerians. So that's why I keep emphasizing the need for government intervention to look at this and ensure that the laws of the country are respected, and so that you don't have privatization that I will say, let me use what we used to say in the labor movement, privatization that has no blood. But
Mr. Esele, you're one of those who used to campaign that government has no business in business. So why would you be asking the government to step in?
No, I am not one of those. I never said government has no business in business. What I always said is that, my statement has always been very clear, is that government must have a stake. Take, for example, I have always talked about the NNPC refinery being privatized on 51-49. The 49, if government is taking 49 out of it, the 49% gives government a substantial amount of control. Now, in NNPC, in Dangote refinery, government was going for 20%, and suddenly government reduced theirs to 7% at the end of the day. Now, one of the reasons why, even when I was Benghazi president or TUC president, we keep emphasizing on partial privatization in the sense that you have government owning 49%, while the operators owning 51%. That is what is happening in LNG. The operator runs the business because they understand the day-to-day running of business. But whenever government is involved in totality, there is always the other side of government, which is political patronage. And once you start having that, then the business will start going down. That is why we always emphasize on 49-51. It's working. LNG model is working. We've never had problems with LNG, and government is making dividend out of what is happening there.
I mean, I want to be able to get your. I want you to give an expert opinion on it, because we just got a message from someone saying, well, even if Dangote is targeting monopoly, because we're seeing that story right now, that he's stifling competition and targeting monopoly with the things that he's doing and saying recently. But the person sent us a message and said, what's wrong with monopoly if he can deliver? From an expert's point of view, what's wrong with monopoly if the person can deliver? And why should that be something that the Nigerian people should be worried about?
I think I'm very clear on that. I'm not against what he's doing. My quote was that the question came from the fact that PETROAN is afraid that Dangote is going to have a monopoly. I'd rather have a monopoly that is a Nigerian than a monopoly that is an American. Because first of all, if PETROAN is going to ask for import license, this is what is going to happen. PETROAN is going to have a run for the dollar, because to import products into the country, you're going to need dollars to do that. And if you do that, we are talking about 1,700 right now. We're going to go as high as 2,000 or 2,000 plus. So that will bring pressure on our FX. So if Dangote is going to be a monopoly, there are also avenues that you can check the monopoly. But one thing is very clear. If it makes product available, I think that is what Nigerians are looking for. But nobody will support a government that will encourage monopoly. No government in the world encourages monopoly. What government wants to do, or what I'm emphasizing here, is that government should ensure that a level playing field is created. But I'm not a party to supporting importation of petroleum products when we have the local capacity to meet our needs.
I mean, we've been talking about how competition and different people being involved in this business would lower the price. I mean, yes, availability is important for us, but price is also a very big issue. Until we get to the level of the UAE or Abu Dhabi, where they can have hydrogen cars and CNG alternatives, where they look at petrol and say it's too expensive, I'm just going to try other alternatives. We're not there yet. Still, for now, we are still towing this line of petrol. And the competition that is necessary for the price to be driven down is what we've all been looking forward to. It's almost as though the Nigerian has been taking in these increases, thinking, don't worry, the competition will hit and then the price will come down. Is that something that we're going to see in the recent future, in the next few months even? Or are we just going to experience this? This is just our reality. The price has gone up and that's where we are.
It's our reality. I think I'll take your last. It's our reality, as painful as it is, because we need to be aware that crude oil is bought in dollars. And if you have a weak currency to the dollar, then there's no way the prices are going to come down. So the other option is that probably the price of crude will tank in the international market, and that's the only way you are going to have probably you are going to pay a lower amount at the pump price. But for anybody to think that, probably petrol is going to get to 500 naira per liter, please just bury that. It's not going to happen I don't think that is going to happen in the foreseeable future. So what we need to ask ourselves is, how do we bring, first is availability of product, and then we have to increase competition. The PETROAN, whoever, they can go ahead and also set up their refineries. Boas refinery is likely going to come up sometime next year. NNPC refinery is also going to come up sometime next year. So we are going to have competition, yes, but that competition will not be devolved from the fact that our currency is weak and the crude oil or petrol is bought in dollars.
I mean, I like that you mentioned our local refineries, but these dates that you're giving, I'm not very hopeful anymore. Remember when they said it was going to be in August? Do you remember, Nelta? They said it was August. We waited. August finished. September, October, November. We're in November. Now, Peter Esele is saying next year that the refineries will be up and running. Always planning for the refineries to be up and running. Are they ever going to be up and running, or are we just chasing our own tail in this story?
I think in one of your programs that I think earlier in the year, and when they made reference to August, and I told them, one of these programs, I said it's not possible, it's not going to happen in August. So my projection is still going to be next year. And I'm hopeful that it comes on next year. I'm not even looking at the first quarter of next year, probably mid next year. But hopefully they prove me wrong, and then by first quarter of next year, the refineries start working. And then there will be competition, and then we start looking at what is going to be at play. And one of the challenges that PETROAN are also worried about, because NNPC refinery comes up, and NNPC have serious thousands of outlets. They're also worried that Aliko Dangote's refinery may also decide to have thousands of outlets, and then PETROAN may be out of their members will be suffocated out of the market. So I think PETROAN should be planning on how to withstand that, because it's going to happen.
Okay, Mr. Esele, let's look at the business side of this thing. Yes, we'll be looking at the business side, but let's look at the business side of this whole thing. So the private fuel station owners are looking to make money.
Yes.
Of course, the owner of Dangote Refinery is looking to make money. The other refineries that we have, I mean, there's a private refinery in Edo State. They're looking to make money. There are other licensees that have not even started building their refineries are also looking to make money. The Nigerian government that owns the Port Harcourt, the Kaduna, and I think the Warri refineries, they're also looking to make money. So what would it take for them to look at a collaboration? The most important thing is to reduce the burden or serve the Nigerian people who right now are buying fuel at between 1,090 naira and 1,500, even if you find it. And so you go to a lot of places, even at this cost, there are still a lot of queues there. You think it's impossible for them to come together and say, okay, this is what we want to do, and this is how we're going to achieve this?
You see, if you want me to be very blunt here, it's not the business. It's not the business of Aliko Dangote or NNPC or BOA to make life easy for the ordinary Nigerians. It's not their business. Their business is to set up a business and make profit. So the responsibility of making life easier for ordinary Nigerians and to mitigate the challenge of subsidy is the responsibility of those that were elected by the people. So those who were elected by the people are to look at this. Okay, we've taken subsidy away. And when subsidy is gone, there are challenges that comes up because of subsidy removal. So how do you now mitigate those challenges that come up? So first, they are talking about cash transfer. We've had the Warri administration also talked about cash transfer. And in doing cash transfer, we were seeing ministers carry money in their bag and be handing it over. That is archaic. First thing is that where is the database that you will use to put money in the pocket of Nigerians? That's one. Then secondly is that you have to look at the cost. All the complaints that you and everybody is making is as a result of transportation. Cost of moving goods and services has skyrocketed. So as a result, if you go to the market, you are going to spend so much more money. So if we have an omnibus plan between the federal, state, and local government, where they will agree and say, okay, fine, this is quantum amount of money we are going to invest in transport system. You know what we have in Nigeria. Take, for example, Lagos. What you have is I would call it National Union of Road Transport Workers' way of moving people. It's not a system. A system is an integrated transport network that will move goods, move services, and independent of itself. So we don't have that. So until we invest in all of that, that is the only way you start making life easier for the people. So to think that businesses will collaborate and make life easier for Nigerians, please bury that thought. Businessmen are in business to make money, and the kind of businessmen we have in Nigeria are the core capitalist, core one. So that's where government comes in. Even the ones you have in America, you see American government is always intervening. Their regulators are always up to speed because they understand that businessmen are only after profit.
I mean, I love the fact that people keep asking us questions to ask you online. But I'm going to pick this one. Someone said the only way you can sell fuel cheaper is if you stole the crude. The only way you can sell petrol cheaper than what Dangote is selling is if you stole the crude and they turned it into petrol and then you brought it back, so you didn't bear the cost of buying crude. It's only if you stole the crude. What do you make of that thought process? Is it possible?
The person has a point, because if you are telling me you are going to bring a product, I'll give an example. How much is a liter of petrol sold in Ghana? Because Ghana imports a product. So the Ghanaian economy is based on importation of petrol. So the average price for a liter of petrol in Ghana is 1,500. Thereabout. Maybe 1,480 something naira. That's the average price of a liter of petrol in Ghana. So if somebody comes and he says he's going to sell at 800 naira, then you need to ask the person, where is he getting it from? And then he also has to do a lot of calculations based on the fact that the petrol or crude is sold in USD.
Going forward, we are where we are. Going forward, what should we expect as a Nigerian people? How do we navigate this? Or should we just ignore these people talking and just buy petrol and keep it moving?
My advice to Nigerians is to hold those that they have elected to stand up for them, to stand up for them, to be able to regulate what is going on between Dangote Refinery and PETROAN. At the end of the day, I'll use your sentence. It's just jostling for position. At the end of the day, it's still all about market share, market price, and profit taking or profit making. That's what it is. So it is for government to look at Nigerians and say, how do we mitigate all of this pain? How do we make things easier for Nigerians? Outside of that, let's just allow PETROAN and Dangote be jostling for the market share, and then allow the regulators to do. The regulators should wake up to their responsibility, so that at the end of the day, Nigerians don't suffer more than they are already doing. But it's our reality now.
Oh well, Mr. Esele.
I'm sorry if giving you the actual truth the way it is, maybe weigh you down, but I just have to tell you the way it is.
We appreciate the truth.
Mr. Esele,
doesn't make it not hurt.
The truth is appreciated. It's not weighing us down. But again, we look at the options. Like a comment we have, it says, Malta monopoly or Nigeria monopoly, choose wisely. Though don't support monopoly, let us look inwards on our resources and see how best we can manage our resources. Thank you once again, Mr. Peter Esele. He's a former president of the Trade Union Congress and the former president of the Pengasan. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Sunrise Daily will be back in a moment. Just stay with us.